Brought to you by DCP Player version 2, available now.
Hi, this is James Gardner, the CineTechGeek, and in today's video I'm going to talk about one of my videos in the End of Film series, and in this video I'm going to cover why film is actually ending and why it's ending now. It's been coming for a long time. It's been that train that never arrives, the end of film, but there's been a number of recent announcements and developments which really says that the train, you can hear it coming down the track. And that really revolves around, well, for example, Fujifilm has announced that it will no longer make film and the chemicals to process film by March 2013. That's not very far away. And Kodak, as we know, is in Chapter 11 and have been looking at selling off that part of their business. But the Fujifilm announcement really waves the flag in the fact that they don't really see much of a profitable market or profitable industry in that part of the market once digital really hits its stride, and that's likely to happen within the next year for most regions. The America will be over 70% by now, and my region is that far. There's quite a few regions which are 100%. As such, the VPF, the virtual print fee, which is a subsidy from the major studios to encourage the industry to convert. Now they had more to gain from that because the big prints that they make, very heavy, so they're very expensive to move, expensive to make, were being replaced by a hard drive with ones and zeros on it, which of course was substantially cheaper to produce and much easier to do the wide releases, etc. around the world. So they're making quite a good saving on that, and that saving was being passed on to the cinema owners to help them convert. Now the cinema owners can also take some advantages from going digital, like potentially lowering their staff because the bio box can work more automated, etc. So there's advantages there too. So going digital is, if anything, it's just as much a business decision than it is anything else. Now, if we talk about film as the quality on the screen, well, there's been quite a lot of tests done to show that the general quality, or generally a 2K digital release is of better quality than a typical cinema release of film. And there's some documents to show how that is the fact after you put a film through the typical Interpos Interneg and the number of copies you need to make that release that large. Film can definitely look better than digital, but in general, in the exhibition market and due to the workflow that it has to go to get to the screen, it doesn't. So going digital is a good step forward in quality for the cinema industry or the cinema exhibition industry. Also, the sound is better quality than it has ever been. It's 48 kilohertz 24-bit audio, which is basically studio quality audio. So it's really good. Now, film also, the reasons why, in my opinion, when we do hit the tipping point, we'll probably fall off quite quickly, is because unlike using film for production, where you run a couple of thousand feet a day and you go into your dailies, etc. When I'm going to do a release, or I'm going to do a day and date release of a film through quite a lot of, or even a worldwide release, I might have to run off 500 copies. And not just talking about 10 minutes or 20 minutes a day. We're talking the full 500 copies of full-length, 90-minute films. That's a lot of film to make, and you need a production line specifically for making that sort of release. And these are very expensive and specific equipment that has to be maintained on a day-to-day basis. It's unlike vinyl, for example, which I've heard many people compare this to. You can't just stick it in the cupboard and pull it out and use it when you need it. It actually has to keep running on a daily basis, and you have to keep it coming through with a certain amount of work to make it a viable solution. So because of that economic and risk factor, when film ends for exhibition, it'll probably end quite quickly because the risk and the effort and the investment you have to keep in keeping film going in the level that we need for exhibition probably won't exist, and the risk will be too high. And I expect the companies to walk away from that pretty quickly. So the big problem here is that when that tipping point happens, we don't want to leave anyone behind. Like in the days of when we went from the silent films to the talkies, those who were too quick, too slow to move, ended up just being left behind and closing their cinemas. Well, this transition from film to digital is vastly bigger in terms of scope and sites, etc. It's been a very difficult job, been a long time coming, a lot of money spent in developing this technology and making sure it's as best as it can be. But there's a lot of, it's expensive, and there's quite a lot of smaller cinemas that may be left behind, the independents who have got the soul and the heart of the industry, and to a degree, in my opinion, are the ones we need to carry forward the most, because of the fact that that's where we keep the soul and the community level of the industry, of the exhibition industry. So my videos have always been about trying to help them, trying to give the information, arm them with the information to move forward. So we need to make sure that going to film doesn't leave them behind, and that it is coming soon. This is a warning card to it. With I've got the other information here to give you a sign of it's coming. And in following videos, I'm going to go over some of the reduction in costs that's happened recently in the smaller projectors and how that affects the bigger projectors, and also for other regions which may not be going digital but other technologies. So yes, the end of film is close, but what we need to do about it is to look for a solution, move forward, and make sure that the cinema industry or the cinema exhibition industry and community keeps up with it and carries forward into the new age of cinema exhibition. Anyway, this is James Gardner, the CineTechGeek.